Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back in with another sequence video. This one was on a tip, from a comment from LOP, and he was speaking about Revelation 15, verse 3, mentioning Moses, as another clue. I would say at this point, it's not really, like a big mystery, who the two witnesses are, but it got me to reread Revelation 15, and I noticed that it wasn't in my repository of sequences. So this quote unquote sequence is DNA, is again being looped throughout the entire Bible. And so the amazing thing about it is that if you look at the Bible on all different scales, at the very minute scale, interpolating words, and then on the chapter level, and then you put the chapters together, it always follows a sequence. And so it's just an amazing thing when you have it, you'll see it, everywhere. And so again, I didn't, I found more of these, as I went through the Bible, and then I went even back into Revelation, and then, showed, as many times as I could see it. And then every time I read the Bible, if I were to go through it again, I would just find more and more. But, I was surprised when I just looked at my repository. I didn't have Revelation 15 in there, but based on LOP's comment, I just reread it, and then it's there, and then it's the nice thing about knowing it is that every time I read the Bible, really anywhere, even if it's not quote unquote prophetic, even though Revelation obviously is, it's going to be there, and then I don't even get surprised anymore. And it's just, it's still amazing because every time it comes out, it will have different amounts of detail of it, but always reaffirming it. And so this one does as well. And then I'll bring out some other sort of precepts to explain what's being said, in Revelation 15. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the last 7 plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of God. Okay. And so remember, this is a key thing that we don't get from the Christian church that we know now in these last days, is that angels are going to be administering plagues. Okay. And then that's one thing. And then the second thing, the wrath of God is plagues. Okay, 7 plagues. And then if you want a detailed description on those, it's Revelation 16, which is coming up right after this. So this is the setup to that. But so angels are administering quote unquote evil. And then the world's going to get annoyed by that and then ultimately fight against them when Christ reappears with the saints. And so just know that. Okay, that's the narrative. And so verse 2, and I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire. This is an interesting reference here. And them that had gotten the victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name stand on the sea of glass having the harps of God. Okay, so what's this reference all about? And so, we have to understand the chapter prior, Revelation 14, to understand who that group is, okay, and why do they have these quote unquote harps, and what are they singing, and what is this group really? And so it's 144,000, okay, and so this is not surprising to me that it's the first thing, in all my sequence videos, you'll get a reference to them. They're sealed and then saved, or sometimes it doesn't have the fact that they're sealed, but it always starts with salvation. That's what I look for. And so it's very easy to find out who this group is because you can read in Revelation 14. And so again, quick reminder for people, the structure of Revelation, 6 chapters, then a summary, like an intermission. The 7th, 6 more, and then an intermission, 6 more, and then an intermission. It's literally like a play. And so 7, 14, and 21 are like summary chapters. Okay. And so they reaffirm the same thing, and then it's like a pause, and it's the same day, same way in creation, 6 days of creation, then rest. And so Genesis and Revelation mirror each other. And then I've done a video where I've shown that the 7 days of creation model the 7 plagues. Okay. If you read them one by one, and then they're mirrors of each other. So it's the same God. Okay. Is what hopefully I've proven. And we all know now, but, we get an understanding of this group. Revelation 14, 1, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion. And Mount Zion, in oftentimes in other verses, books is synonymous of the elect. Christ will return with Mount Zion, on Mount Zion. It's talking about with his elect. And with him 144,000 having his Father's name written in their foreheads. Okay. And so this is the spiritual reference. They've been taken away already. Okay. Verse 2, and I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. Okay. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn the song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Okay. And so we get a reference to them singing and then the voice of harpers harping with their harps. Okay. And so, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne. Okay. And so that's a very, very important reference to help us understand, who is this group, here in Revelation 15:2. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire. Precept for that is Job 37:18. Hast thou, Job 37:18, hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong and as a molten looking glass. Okay. And so this is the firmament. Okay. So they're above that. Okay. So they're in the spirit realm and standing on the sea of glass. Okay. Having the harps of God. And so they're above the firmament. They're in the spirit realm. They're taken away. Okay. That's always the first thing that happens. Again, if it's not that they were being sealed, but that's the first thing, event in the sequence. Okay. And verse 3, and they sing the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb, saying, great and marvelous are thy works, Lord God Almighty, just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. And so Christ is the King of the saints, the 144,000. And I've done a past lesson on the song of Moses, in the book of Exodus. It follows the sequence too, okay? And so I even referenced Revelation 15:3, but LOP, in his comment, he's like, this is another reference to the fact that Moses is one of the two witnesses. And he's correct, because it's salvation, okay, which I just read in Revelation 15:1 and 2. And, that's first, okay? And then it's prior to the wrath being administered, okay? Revelation 15:1, for in them is filled up with the wrath of God. Before that happens, okay, the elect are sealed and then they're taken away, okay? And then verse 3, we have a reference to Moses, okay, who's one of the two witnesses, okay? And so this is also following the sequence. So let's keep reading. Now, verse 4, who shall not fear thee, O Lord, and glorify thy name? For thou only art holy, for all nations shall come and worship before thee, for thy judgments are manifest. And so now God is going to make it clear that it's him doing it, okay? It's not this thing started in Wuhan or anything like that. Okay, it's like I read in Revelation 15:1, the angels now are going to be admitted. The first one out, the second one out, the third one out. Okay, if you read Revelation 16, so his judgments are made manifest. It's going to be clear, and he's going to start with the skin, okay, with the sores. Verse 5, and after that I looked, and behold, the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was opened. Okay, and the seven angels came out of the temple, having the seven plagues, clothed in pure and white linen, and having their breasts girded with golden girdles. And so, after the elect are taken away, Moses and Elijah are brought here, and then God's judgments are going to be made manifest, okay? And so now the seven angels are going to go out at the command of the two witnesses who are here on feet on the ground, okay? Verse 7, and one of the four beasts gave unto the seven angels 7 golden vials full of the wrath of God, who liveth forever and ever, okay? And the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of God and from his power, and no man was able to enter into the temple till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled. Okay, and so now this is the time where God is sifting the earth for the mixed multitude. And so we get this understanding in Revelation 7. So in Revelation 7, we get a reference to the elect first. Again, this is a summary chapter, like I said. So the elect are always referenced first, okay? And then it says, verse 9, and after this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, okay? Of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. No man could number. So the angels have to go out and declare who they are. And they're going to start by declaring who they not are by putting sores, okay? And so this is God doing it now. No man can go and say, oh, you're in the truth and you're in this congregation, all that. No one cares anymore, okay? And then it says here, okay, verse 13, and one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? Okay, so he's not talking about the 144,000 because everybody knows who they are. Okay. Verse 14, and I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest, and he said unto me, these are they which came out of great tribulation. Okay, so the elect are taken away out of tribulation. Okay, there is a difference. Okay, and only the elect know. And have washed their robes and have made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Okay. Therefore, verse 15, therefore are they before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. And so the throne is God, the temple is the elect, okay, and then this is the court without, okay, and then this is that group in Revelation 15, okay. No man could enter, until till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled. Verse 8, in the Revelation 15:8, and the temple was filled with smoke and from the glory of God and from his power, and no man was able to enter into the temple till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled. Okay, and so once those are fulfilled, then we will have the wrath of God, the final wrath of God, where Christ returns with his elect and then destroying everybody, and then the kingdom being established. Okay, where this group now that's being sifted out during this time of the Great Tribulation, like I just read in Revelation 7, they came out of the Great Tribulation and washed their robes. Okay, then they're going to be serving God, through serving the elect in the temple, who are the temple, and then we'll be serving God on his throne. Okay, and so that's what we have in Revelation 15. So Revelation 15 follows the sequence as well, which is again not a surprise at this point for people who are familiar with my channel. Revelation 11:1, and there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God. That's a coded reference for the 144,000. And I've done a lesson on that to explain that. Measure the temple of God. Okay, and so that's the elect. And the altar and them that worship therein. So they're worshiping in an altar. Okay, so there's not a temple in an altar. Okay, the temple is the elect in the altar. Okay, and them that worship therein. Okay, so in Revelation 11:1, they're already worshiping. Okay, but the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, like I read earlier in Revelation 7. This is a group that no man can number. Okay, and so that's the Bible's using the exact same language to describe all these different groups. Okay, and so that group, in Revelation 11:2, but the court which is without the temple, the court is outside of the temple, which is then outside of the throne. So it's God, the elect, and then it's the court out. Okay, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. So this quote unquote holy city, which is going to come down from heaven, is going to be trampled underfoot. And so it's the same reference in Revelation 15 where God's elect are singing this song. They're all in unison with their harps, and they're outside of the firmament, the molten looking glass, this glass mingled with fire. Okay, and so it's always the same sequence, and then you will never find a contradiction at this point, and it's impossible. And so that's what the Bible says, it's going to happen. And so it's absolutely amazing to me just how consistent the structure is, for sure. And so Revelation 15 supports the sequence of the end times. So I'm just going to let it load back up here, but this reference, stand on the sea of glass, okay, having the harps of God. Again, John the Revelator is looking up and seeing these things, okay. Sometimes he's even seeing things within the firmament, okay, things that are happening. But here, this is like he's literally looking up and seeing the elect, having this, singing this song. Revelation 15:2, and I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name stand on the sea of glass having the harps of God, and they sing the song of Moses, the song that they're singing. Okay, and so they have victory over this because they know all that. Okay, they know that's God's entire left-hand side, and so they have victory over it. Okay, and so they don't need to even be a part of that. Okay, because they know that a majority of the earth is Antichrist. Okay, and so they understand who the beast is, okay, and all that kind of stuff. And so this is an elite group, and like it says here in verse 3, thou King of Saints, okay. And so it's very clearly referencing the elect, in Revelation 15 verse 2 and verse 3, and even verse 4, because they know lot of things. Okay, they know that God is behind everything. Okay, that's what they know now. The election have attained and the rest were blinded. They're behind God's behind every single thing, but another group needs to see it, okay, in order to believe it, so to speak. That's why it says here in verse 4, for thy judgments are made manifest. And during this time in Revelation 14:6, the gospel is going to be preached, the everlasting gospel, okay. And so there's another group that are still on God's right hand side, but they don't know what those UFOs are, maybe, or like they need to see it, to believe it. And so they're going to be the angels are going to be preaching the gospel as well in Revelation 14:6. And so they're not seduced, after that. Okay. But they need to have the gospel, the real gospel preached to them, not by these actors, and these liars that are on YouTube and everywhere. And so they got to see it to believe it, so to speak. But the elect, no, okay, because they've attained it and they were sealed in Revelation 7. So Revelation 15 follows the sequence as well. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.